Alaikum everyone. My name is Mohammed Sir. Most of you know me by Munti. We're just gonna have some introductions before we start up with this interview. I'm a student at little over year 13, into A levels. I was the former youth mayor of Derby, where I represented the young people of Derby, and now I continue to do a lot of faith work to try and address misconceptions about Islam and educate both Muslims and non-Muslims about Islam and guiding them towards the truth.
My name is Christopher John George. I'm a researcher at University of Nottingham, looking into Islamophobia. And if you don't know me already, I'm online with my colleague Ben, and debunking Islamophobia through various means of content.
So, what I wanted to do with this interview is focus on how we can try and educate non-Muslims about Islam and try and introduce the religion of Islam to them. Because if you go online, you might see, or even in the media, you'll see tons of misconceptions. So, what I wanted to talk to you in particular, Chris, was how you think it's best to approach that. So, my first question is, what do you think is the best approach towards educating non-Muslims about Islam?
I mean, there are tons of ways out there. Clearly, there are a lot of successful ways and a lot of unsuccessful ways. The approach that myself and my friend Ben have taken is by misspelling kind of cultural misconceptions. So things related to the idea or the premise that you have to be foreign to be a Muslim, or the Muslim is the other, this kind of Orientalism of othering people. So my advice in a UK context nowadays would be focusing on the misconceptions about what it is to actually be a Muslim, and looking at the different realms that Islam allows for different nationalities, and focusing on the cultural aspects that the everyday Joe walking down the street that's just come out of Greg's, he can be a Muslim and he doesn't need to change his dress, his cultural identity, and that focusing on the purity that Islam is a faith that initially starts in the heart, and that's where the primary focus should be. It's the change of hearts, not the change of dress.
I think that's a really beautiful thing, especially in Islam, the emphasis that there is on the qalb, the spiritual heart, and trying to purify of its diseases, because only then that we're actually able to connect with Allah and reach a deeper connection with our faith as well. This is something beautiful. A little bit about yourself, I wanted to ask was, what problems did you face on your journey towards Islam that you think that most non-Muslims may face, or maybe something much more underrated in terms of what you think they might not have thought of to face, really?
So there's two kind of fronts that I've noticed that myself and fellow people have also embraced Islam have faced, which would be the first front of the non-Muslim community. So how you interact and how you talk and engage with them. And then the second front is the Muslim community. So focusing on the first front with the non-Muslim community, it's essential that you perceive, or at least showcase yourself, that you're joining a religion, but it's a religion that makes you a better person, that makes you a kinder person, that makes you a person that's even more subservient to your parents, and makes you a person that's willing to help your community and be involved as a servant for your community, rather than kind of like linking it back to what I initially said by changing your dress and changing your name. All of these things can have red flags for the non-Muslim community and start reinforcing biases that they may have. On the on the Muslim front, I would look at, for example, how you integrate with the Muslim community themselves, how you look at being involved with a support system, how you look at developing yourself, your spiritual self. Are you, for example, taking classes? Are you increasing your knowledge from people who are reliable and trustworthy, rather than just learning random stuff on the internet? Are you engaging with the Muslim community in a way whereby they can actually help you? Because some people would, who embrace Islam, stay at home, stay behind a computer, and then they wouldn't have the access to the resources in a way whereby somebody who puts themselves out there and actually visits the local mosques, makes friends and talks to people. So people who have embraced Islam, I would encourage them to actually build up the courage within themselves to go and talk to people in the local mosque, go and talk to the imam. It might be a frightening prospect at first, and for many, it is a frightening prospect because it's the fear of the unknown. How are they going to receive me? But once you get over that hurdle, you'd actually find a ton of people that are happy to help you and happy to support you.
Exactly. I mean, with my own spiritual journey towards Islam, it was only in the last 5 or 6 years I really started to take my religion seriously. And that was because I decided to take my own decision to research the religion on my own, rather than just relying on cultural factors or what I perceived to be religious beliefs, but were really just like cultural innovations. I decided to take my own steps towards learning about Islam, and alhamdulillah, that led me to where I am and to really have a passion for this theme. And
And that's the beauty of it is that Islam gives you that filter whereby you can decipher what is cultural and what is not, But also on the same by the same token, it allows you to also have that filter to be able to establish, okay, that's cultural, it's not part of Islam. However, it's not haram, it's not prohibited. So it by building it comes back to by building that base of knowledge, that basic amount of knowledge that really gives you that foundation to be able to understand, okay, this is haram, this is halal, and I can engage in this and I can't engage in this, not in some sort of extreme way, but in a sensible, wise way to be able to know what you can and can't engage in. And Islam provides that filter to filter out all the bad things, but also keep the beneficial, beautiful things of that culture.
really is the perfect way of life and perfect lifestyle for pretty much everyone to live by, alhamdulillah. But yeah, moving on to the final question. This is going to be quick. With parenting today, lots of Muslims feel that their parents are too strict to them. This is especially coming from like South Asian communities. I was wondering if you had any advice or any experience in terms of, do you feel that Muslim parents are too hard on their children, or is there a better way of them trying to educate Islam towards them?
That's a difficult one to answer because I'm not a product of Muslim
Yeah.
parents, nor do I have children that are products of me.
Mm,
So that's a difficult one to answer. I can only talk from observations and talking to other people. Um, I hear different stories. Sometimes it's my parents are too strict. They put me into a madrasa system. The imam beat me with a stick to read the Quran. And then other people I've seen where that their relationship with their parents has been broken down over the years, and then towards the latter years they've rebuilt that relationship, and that's been in line with rebuilding their relationship with Islam also. So it depends on each and every person's situation. However, the advice potentially you could give to parents is allow your children to love Islam rather than you forcing Islam upon them. When they fall in love with Islam, Islam will flow like a river throughout their veins. But when you force it, as you know, when you try and force anything like magnets, the opposite of magnets, they just repel. So don't be a repelling parent, but rather be that provider of river where Islam can flow throughout their veins.
I think it was Professor Jeffrey Lang who talked about his own rebirth journey and how if he was like burdened with rules upon rules and rules and prohibitions of Islam, he wouldn't have come to Islam. But it was that easing into the religion, that emphasis on, I think he said about 98% of the Quran is filled with beautiful teachings of morality, of history, of language, of culture, of all these different things that Muslims can benefit from. However, most is try and focus on the negative of like the what is halal, what is haram, and they just try and emphasis on that instead of the beauty of like how much we can learn and benefit as
Yeah,
humanity, as a human species from that book. So it's really a
absolutely.
special thing.
And also like the understanding. It's a mentality as well. When somebody understands, for example, if you want to talk about rules and fiqh and jurisprudence, that Allah had prohibited you from such a thing. Not like rather, this is haram, you're not allowed to do it. Your creator had prohibited you from doing this. Or on the opposite, your creator has allowed you to engage in this. And when it's that kind of understanding, my Lord, my Rabb has prohibited me from doing this. Who am I? So it's a whole mentality of understanding Islam that perhaps with some parents, with some families, with some children, that perhaps needs to be looked at and tweaked a bit, let's say, to be diplomatic.
Yeah, 100%. I just want to say we've come to the end of this interview, but Jazakallah khairan for agreeing to do this interview. Inshallah, it can be a benefit to both the Muslim and non-Muslim community, and it can help build those bridges between our communities as well. Any final words that you'd like to say?
No, nothing in particular other than thank you so much for allowing me to attend this, and I wish you all the best.
No worries at all. Thank you everyone for watching. Jazakallah khair.